Hello and welcome to yet another episode in History Time. November 22nd, 1963. That was when, in Dallas, the 35th President of the United States of America, John F. Kennedy, was shot dead. Cut to Madras, in Mylapore, where there are two very narrow streets, Kennedy 1st Street and Kennedy 2nd Street. Is there any connection between John F. Kennedy and those two streets? Let's investigate that story today. If you ask the standard Mylaporean, they will tell you that those two streets have been named after John F. Kennedy. That immediately after his assassination, there was such an outpouring of grief that these two streets were named after him immediately. Is it even possible that a mighty American president would have two narrow streets named after him? In fact, these two streets are so narrow that traffic has to go only in one direction. If a vehicle enters in the opposite direction, it will have to reverse all the way back in order to allow the vehicle coming in front to go through. To put it in terms of location, the street connects Luschurch Road and Oliver Road or Musiri Subramanya Iyer Salai. Two very, very narrow streets, no footpaths in them, named as Kennedy Streets 1 and 2. Historically, if you look at the street name, you find that it was Kannadi Street for some time, Kannadian Street for some time, then it became Kavadian Street for some time, then it was Kunwadi Street for a little while, eventually becoming Kennedy and claiming to pay tribute to John F. Kennedy. What is the history behind this street? Would you believe it if I told you that it commemorates a tribe of curd sellers whose mother tongue was Kannada? Where did these people come from? Before that, what was it that they were doing over here? They actually belonged to the pastoral Lingayat community, a sub-community in fact called the Gavli Lingayats. They were cowherds and they came here essentially to sell milk and curd, principally curd. Every day in the morning, it is said that they would set out with the curds in a pot, put inside a woven basket, and covering it would be a thick black blanket. This blanket was to ensure that the curds did not get sour because of the bright sunlight. And then they would go from street to street in Mylapore shouting, "Tairu Perugu, Tairu Perugu." Tair, of course, in Tamil is curds, and Perugu in Telugu is curds. In those days, there were a number of Telugu-speaking people also in Chennai city. And this was the principal trade of these people. And because they lived on those two streets, and because they spoke Kannada, the streets were known as Kannadian Street. And sometimes when they did not carry the curds on their heads, they would sling it on a bamboo pole from which would be suspended the pots, known as Kavadi in Tamil. And therefore, the streets also became Kavadian streets. Sometime in the 1930s, these two names combined together, and you find that street directories of that time describe the place as Kunwadian Street. And that is what finally metamorphosed into Kennedy Streets. Where did these people come from? In the 17th century, they were in Mysore, and the Lingayat community rebelled against the then ruler Chikkadevaraya. They were defeated and then they had to flee. They joined the various armies that were crisscrossing India at that time, selling milk, curd and other pastoral products to them. Eventually, when the British army came, they joined the British army as well. By the end of the 18th century, when wars were a matter of the past, they settled around the Chembarambakam Lake and they became a sub-community known as the Chengalpat Lingayats. It was a subgroup from the Chengalpat Lingayats that finally moved to Mylapore in order to sell curds to the Brahmin and the Mudaliyar communities that lived over here. That was the beginning of that name. And from there, just look at what just around 100 years did to them, that finally we begin to believe that we were paying tribute to John F. Kennedy. The history of this tribe, together with a photograph of the man selling curds, is available in Edgar Thurston's castes and tribes of southern India. It was a monumental work done in the 19th century by an East India Company employee. It is with such fascinating nuggets that a city is really built. And I'm sure many other localities in Chennai city have such equally interesting histories. I promise to be back with them in subsequent episodes. Bye for now.